I call this meeting to order. We're going to open it up to an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please bow your head. I'm going to say a quick prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for bringing us all here together. We hope that you would give us a spirit of unity and togetherness and love, and a singular purpose to serve our residents, to do the best job that we can, and to provide the best service that's available. Lord, we ask that you give us wisdom and guidance. And in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Okay, next we have received comments from the public. I see that there are no members of the public here, so we'll go ahead and move on. Item number 4, consider an act on request for adjustments. Do we have any?
I have nothing this month.
Thank you very much. We'll skip on. None. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda, item 5 through 13. Does anyone have anything that they want to discuss?
Where are the minutes at? We're going to discuss, is the minutes part of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Item 5, I'd like to, some adjustments to the minutes.
Okay, can I say something first?
Yes.
Say what we pull out? Like, do we say what we're going to pull out from
No,
each one?
please do.
And then we accept the consent and then we can pull them out and talk about them.
Okay, let's, who wants to pull, you want to pull out number 5? Okay. And would you like to pull anything out?
I would like to pull out 10. 12. And 13.
Okay. With the exception of item 5, 10, 12, and 13, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, I make a all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, let's begin with item number 5 on the minutes. Let me just say it beforehand that on item 12 of the minutes, I asked Shelley to clarify the discussion on the operating budget. What I asked her to do was to clarify your proposal and also the proposal by Director Letterman. And then I asked her to clarify the compromise that was made by the whole board. And so this way, I think it more clearly communicates the intent that each of the board members were trying to put forth.
Exactly, Mike.
Okay, and let me read it to you. The budget was discussed for over 30 minutes. Director Smith made a motion to approve the district's draft fiscal year 2022-23 operating budget with a maintenance tax rate of 0.02534 and a debt service of 0.16 for a total tax rate of 0.185340, and recommended a water rate structure seconded by Director Letterman. The motion failed with Directors Letterman and Smith for and Directors Eklund and Newman opposed. Next paragraph, Director Letterman, as a compromise, made a motion to approve the district's draft fiscal year 2022-23 operating budget, revised to reflect a maintenance tax rate of 0.029 and a debt service of 0.16 for a total tax rate of 0.18534. And recommended water rate structure seconded by Director Smith. The motion carried unanimously. And that's all I had.
0.18534.
Right here, right here.
Read that number again.
185,840.
Total tax rate was approved was 0.189.
189.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yes, yes. I'm sorry.
so this shows 1,853.
Okay, then we're gonna need to just change that one digit.
Could you read that again?
0.189.
All right,
We said,
let me restate that sentence. Director Letterman, as a compromise, made a motion to approve the district's draft fiscal year 2022-23 operating budget revised to reflect a maintenance tax rate of 0.029 and a debt service of 0.16 for a total tax rate of 0.189340.
No, I think it's
That's the first number, so-
I think it's just 0.189.
yeah.
You have extra zeros in there.
So 0.0.
I think the numbers she's written here are correct.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
0.189.
The only thing I had trouble with was I'd like to see the set of D, I think David Smith, yeah, DS. I'd like to see the spelling
Is that
out
not what I said?
of debt service. and-
0.189.
Yeah, I was
So
thinking,
the
oh,
first
DS.
Yeah.
Okay, the second one, it's
That's it, it's correct.
I fell for that for a minute.
You're just adding, so it's 18. 18 and then the 9, 0.1. 0, it's 0.1. 0.1, so it's 18. 189.
0.189.
Yeah,
340. Okay,
I don't know about the 340. 0.18.
this should be
There's nothing goes up.
Yeah, so this
One,
is just gonna
eight.
add all the,
Zeros coming from the previous paragraph.
yeah, so those go away. Just didn't carry.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we have it now. Let me reread it again. Director Letterman, as a compromise, made a motion to approve the district's draft fiscal year 2022-23 operating budget revised to reflect a maintenance tax rate of 0.029 and a debt service of 0.16 for a total tax rate of 0.189.
There we go.
And recommended water rate structure, seconded by Director Smith. The motion carried unanimously. Okay,
Very good.
so we'll have to sign it a third time.
Fix that,
So, here.
so that they don't get.
Okay. Item 10, received the San Jacinto, I'm sorry?
We need a motion on that.
Oh, we need a motion to change the consent agenda,
No, the minutes.
the minutes
Correct.
from last month's meeting. Is there a discussion? Or do I have a second?
So,
Okay, do we have a discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. And we have it up here for you. All right. Let's pull item number 10. The report from the SJRA.
Good afternoon. I can cover high-level items, or since it was pulled up, there's some specific items you'd like to cover, we can just address those.
I think I would just like to go specific unless you all want the high level.
Let's be specific, or at least that's what I'd like. Did you have anything?
Let's go with Deidre's. I do have a couple of comments.
Okay, so we'll start on page 21. And I have to find all my chicken scratch note. Okay, so lift station rehabilitation fiscal year 23. That is a new item, correct?
Yes and no. Lift
Okay.
Station rehabilitation is an annual item. And so it was last year and it just carries over year to year to year.
Okay, so it's not specific or anything like that, because it's all mud.
Correct. And so what this is if there's any rehab that's needed on the lift stations, that's not like a big major rehab. It's included in there. So if we need to coat the wall, replace pumps, so on and so forth, we catch it in there rather than the other inside.
Okay. And lift station number 5, force main replacement, has been in land acquisition for quite a while.
That's a good point. Thank you. So I need to take it off of land acquisition. It's actually in final design, but it's on hold because depending on how y'all decide to go forward with the strategic plan, that may or may not be needed. So we didn't want to spend the $5-6 million and put it in the ground if it's not needed.
Okay.
So it's not in land acquisitions and it's actually like 100% design.
What was that project?
The first one on 21, lift station number 5, force main replacement.
Okay, Woodlands Digital Water System Phase 1.
Yes.
Woodlands Digital Water System. It's on track. So can I get a little bit of an explanation of what you mean by the Woodlands Digital Water System? Is it a digital twin model?
Close. And so going to a full digital twin is probably a couple years out if we go that route.
Okay.
This essentially, high level. We have SCADA, we have GIS, we have Wonderware, we have Bentley Water Gems. We have all these softwares, right? They don't talk to each other. Even if they do, they carry limited information between the two, right? And so what we've done is the digital water system, it's Microsoft Power BI is what it is.
Okay.
And we're just pulling the data we need from each of those softwares to combine it into one area so we can slice and dice. So phase 1 is combining water quality parameters with the SCADA data.
Okay.
And then it's also doing the project plan as well as the asset management plan. So likelihood of failure, consequence of failure, taking it all from Excel and paper to actually put it on the screen so we can, like the project plan, we can change inflation on the screen and say, oh, you want 2%, 2% for the first 5.
Is this where you're
5%.
just taking all the softwares and you're trying to get them to work together? This is actually not going in and like what I would consider like digital twin is connecting SCADA and having smart meters and going in and doing that. So that's what I consider digital twin.
But that's I wholeheartedly agree. That's a phase 3, maybe phase 4, because
Okay.
we're gonna crawl first before we start walking and running. So we're gonna
You would even like what I do with other cities and entities is I do like a sample of the city and you can get it to where you can get it to where the software manufacturer will help you create that. So then it's less money for you. As kind of like a sample of what their technology can do. You can also have technology to where you can predict line breaks.
Well, that's the whole AI predictive maintenance that we're getting to. And if you got time some point, I'd love to get together so we can actually show you what we're doing and places we can go from there. And we don't bore everybody here.
Okay. So could you put like because it just gets us, well, you do have when it's supposed to end, right? Like when it's supposed to be complete.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's next month.
Phase 1 is the end of next month.
So what I could kind of look at is why is the invoiced amount so much less, but it's supposed to be due next month?
That is a good point.
They're not-
Let me check with Aaron on that.
Okay, yeah, because I would look at that, I would say, well, how are they gonna get that much money done in a month?
Yeah, we talked 2 days ago. Yeah, we talked Monday about when to close it out and they have their parameters.
Okay. And is the Woodlands Asset Management Plan also new? Asset Management Plan update?
That's an O&M item. It was actually started in FY 22, carried to 23. We developed the asset management plan in-house, and this is a 5-year update to make sure we're staying inside of industry best practices.
Okay, what might help is if either you group them by, I don't want to say funding source, but like if they're in design versus construction versus like a study. And then if you like highlight the new ones so
Okay.
that we know like, okay, that's new. I haven't seen that one before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can look and see, just bear in mind, there's difference of opinions based on the mud that I go to. Some want to see them say no, lift station 5 is always number 1 on the list, and they want to track it that way. So sometimes I got to blend with the mud 1-for-1 report. So I'll work with you.
You don't have to like change it special for us, but maybe just add the new thing. Like if other muds are like, no, we really like it, like blah, blah, blah. I don't
Okay.
care, but add like a little asterisk or something like new.
I highlight it when it's closed. I can highlight it when it's new.
Okay. Okay. Anybody have questions on that? Okay.
You mentioned Wonderware.
Yes.
And what is the other major software package?
Esri, Hawkwims.
And what are they, which ones do what?
So Esri GIS, it's GIS. Hawkwims is basically, it's a database, it's kind of like Excel, kind of like Access, and tracks all of our water quality sampling and stuff like that, the flows and all whatnot. Water gems. Sewer gems, it's InfoWorks, it's on the sewer, it's hydraulic modeling software. Let's see what else we got. True Bill, it's a billing software. Those are that come to mind.
Obviously not on the spot.
Limited back and forth, but they don't give you what you want, you know, and it takes the software for what it's supposed to do in terms of doing something else and trying to make it do what it's supposed to do.
Is Wonderware the package or just a minor player?
It's equal with the rest of them. It does what it's supposed to do on the SCADA side, but it can't do everything.
Can't do
on
anything else.
Right. Questions?
Okay, so just to let you know, I did contact AWA and I have a contact that sets the AWA benchmarks because I know a couple of months we were talking about how you had difficulties comparing like against the AWA benchmark. So I have a contact at AWA now
Okay.
that can kind of maybe help us figure out how we can track against their benchmark.
That'd be great.
Okay, so she's out of the office until Monday.
Okay.
So I will send that along on
I
Monday.
appreciate it. And those are benchmarked mostly on the financial side, and we've removed them because everybody classifies O&M expenses differently. And so we don't want to include something that puts us way up here, exclude stuff, leaves us way down here. We want to be apples to apples. Just to fill you out.
Yeah, I just found a contact. They sent me the name. Okay, so I wanted to start off with the wastewater meeting, but I want to start off with the September 19th internal meeting. This is your internal meeting, right?
So,
Okay.
September, which day again?
57?
What page?
Page 57.
57. Yes, this is the.
Okay, so there's an item about, so this is peak flow. Okay, so the peak flow, the wet weather peak flow. It looks like y'all looked at a 5-year, 24-hour storm, like that, and then also a 2-year, 24-hour storm, right? So, anyone want to talk about like what the wet weather peak flow and stuff is and any of that?
I think they have adopted your way of thinking on their peak flow
What's that way of
calculation.
thinking? I
It
forget.
was 2-year.
2-year, 24-hour?
Yeah.
You're gonna go to that?
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
I mean, because it's on, anyways, it's a lot of different things. We presented all different options. Stakeholders voted on the 5-year, 24-hour originally, but that's what the stakeholders voted on, so that's what we've carried forward. Because stakeholders vote on it, we're gonna honor it. at the last stakeholder meeting on, I think September 28th, the consultant presented another option, which is to go to an equalization basin or equalization tank. And then by doing that, you can then reduce the actual peak flow from the 5-year 24-hour to the 2-year 24-hour.
Okay,
Still have the same level of protection.
Right.
so your equalization basin is just to hold excess, the excess flow.
Hold it in and then meter it through the plant as, you know.
Yeah, so okay, so it's more, okay, so that was gonna be my next question. It says, Dan Hildebrandt suggests we discuss this with the stakeholders next week. So they were gonna discuss peak flow options, and I guess what my concern would be is if you're not in this all day, every day, like bigger storm sounds better, right? You know, because it could happen. I mean, it's not, would it happen? I don't know. But in comparison to what you've seen, like, are you comparing it or are they comparing it to what they've actually seen from rainfall events? And I completely understand we're in a drought right now. The
Right.
previous years, peak flow events, how much has it gone above average flow?
Agree. So what we did when we presented to the stakeholders, maybe in July, if not before then, we showed the peak flow of the plant of all the previous storms, the Harveys, the Ikes, all those things that came through. And then where the current 2-year 24-hour, and then where the updated 2-year and 24-hour and 5-year 24-hour, where they all sit. From that, the discussion that occurred is when stakeholders said, okay, go with 5-year because it covers everything but basically Harvey. So we did compare it to current peak flows and current storms we have seen recently. Now, the 2-year doesn't cover, I want to say it's like Memorial Day or something, but it covers a 100-year storm without problem.
So what you're inevitably doing is the question comes down to, do you want to treat storm water? Do you want to upsize your system to treat a storm that would happen theoretically every 5 years over a 24-hour period is what you're doing.
The other little caveat too is part of it with conventional flow, we'll push whatever we can push through it, right? That's one thing, but if you go the MBR route, you can't push so much through, then you back up in the system.
Yeah,
So
it's harder to treat peak flows with MVR. Okay, that's my question, because if you're gonna pick a higher storm and then if you go MVR, you're sizing it for that,
I agree.
and it's more expensive. And is it needed? Like that's the question that I have on a daily basis. Okay, so let's go to the 28th meeting minutes. And I just kind of want to go over the time frame schedule of like decision. So it says that you confirm that the January 10th meeting is for the stakeholders' final decision, and the rest of January is allocated for communicating to the MUD director. So will our stakeholder person like bring us the information prior to that? Like, how is that gonna happen? Because we've got just November and December. So the final report is coming November 2nd, or the final financial data, November 2nd, so 2 weeks. So everybody'd have to digest it. We'd get it for the November meeting. Like how is it all going to work so then we feel comfortable with the decision that we tell our stakeholder to make?
Agree wholeheartedly. That's been the point of discussion most of today. So I'm going to work with Jim and his staff to kind of refine how the whole thing's going to work. But the original plan when we started the whole program was that January of next year is when a decision would be made. And so all we did was back up. But the general thought is November 2nd stakeholder talking alternatives and costs. They get the report, they get the information, y'all get the report, y'all get the information at the same time. Well, the next week, same time, however. November and December, there's a lot of discussion from us and y'all talking about the options, the alternatives, so on and so forth, for the decision to be made in January by the stakeholders after already talking to the MUDs for 2 months, and then confirmed by the MUDs a week after the stakeholders. Now, it was mentioned about having maybe a special meeting like we did some of those the director orientations. We could do that as well. come in for 2 to 4 hours or so and just hit some of the high level things on a Friday, Saturday, whatever it needs to be, so everybody gets information, present whatever we can on a high level. Problem with that though is we can't really make too many changes at that point. What's happening now is there's a lot of, one or two people that have ideas and thoughts that have already 5-year, 24 hours, a perfect example. There's some folks that wanted the 2-year early on, while everybody else wanted the 5-year. And so just because 1 or 2 want this, we can't direct the rest of them.
Did anybody say this is what we recommend? Like, did the engineers say we actually recommend that you do this over this?
I think everything, George, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think everything comes with a recommendation after the internal meetings by the consultant and us.
They recommended putting in a tank. Go to the 2-year, 24-hour rainfall.
That makes me feel a little bit better. Okay.
So we get to the end of this process. If we have another, to be honest with you, it's in 20 minutes is very difficult to digest all this. But it was not in the stakeholder meeting.
Yeah, it took us 4 hours.
Yeah. So I would like, obviously, the only voice I have is up and
Sound
down.
better.
I can't.
No,
change it.
no, I have no
So
problem.
I'm okay with, I'd like to have another review meeting for me to absorb the information, but not to allow anybody to express changes.
I'm all on board.
I mean,
with that.
that's how
Yeah.
you probably prefer it, since we speak through you.
And I have a change that I'm asking for.
Yeah, okay. So I'd like to, be better informed.
Mhm.
I can express those changes if I have any, not at the meeting, but to my our representative. And then we take a yes or no vote later.
Right.
I like that process.
And part of this too, right now we have 8 alternatives. I'm trying to get it down to at least 2, maybe at the highest level 3. That way, then we can go into phase 2 if y'all want to, and then you can, fine tune, like George's question on capacity, the treatment options, the 5-year, 24-hour, all the environmental questions, everything else. The original study for this was a $3 million study that got knocked down. All these little things got knocked off until we ended up with basically $1 million study just to do high level. And then through the process, a lot of folks want to add these things back on, but I've cut $2 million off the project to get it in, out, and done. So if we can go from 8 down to 2, maybe 3, then we can spend the next year informing the public and fine tuning it and getting a whole lot better cost estimates.
What was your change?
So all of these studies are based on capacity. And you remember a couple of months ago, Dan came to us, Hildebrand came to us and said, well, we're going to have a 10 million gallon per day combined plant, or 2 plants that add up to 10 million. The current recommendation that's in their estimating is about 14 million gallon per day.
Mhm.
And so my question is, we're running at about 55% capacity. And basically when I calculate capacity off of the flow rates, I get 9.4 million. And so my question to Chris is, rather than use 217 gallons per day per single family house, why not use the current flow rate, which is 135 gallons per day, and then
that would-
escalate from there?
That would take a TCQ request to change the flow, the minimum flow, correct?
It'd be a permanent modification to reduce the flow. The concern is the MUDs have bought capacity of 217 gallons per day for the 6 we found off Cal. So going into this, rather than redoing one of the items that was cut, rather than redoing the capacity to identify what the true dry weather flow is, we said the MUDs have already bought 217. Let's just use that because the MUDs know it keeps apples to apples. Because we're not designing the plant now, we're just trying to figure out which option is the best way to go forward. Then when y'all say do this or do this, then we fine tune and say it's not 217, it's actually 135, 165. Then when you design the facility, you design it for what's truly needed. Right now, all we're doing is saying, this is what's bought, this is what's on the ground, apples to apples, this is why we're pricing it for 14 point whatever.
How are you metering the inflow at each plant? Are you metering it?
We're not measuring it.
Okay, you're measuring outflow? Okay, is that tied to anything? Like, do you have the lift station measurements or anything?
We do have lift stations, but what we're doing is, so the 217 came from 2009. We know it's outdated, right? But it's what was used in the sixth and final back in 2017. In 2018, 2019, we did a STAR program where we put 65 flow meters all across the woodlands and measured flow from basically 65 sub basins. Compared that to what came inside the plant, calibrated it out, and that's where we got 169 per gallons per day per SFGB.
So maybe what I have available on the Dropbox is not very technical. So I don't know if that's just the report that they did for the directors. Do you have a more technical report with the actual modeling results
From what?
from wastewater modeling? A wastewater modeling report.
Dan, May, I don't know how to read that very well, so I give that to you.
Okay,
So I'll check with Dan. You talking about for this program right here,
Yeah.
the feasibility?
I do know how to read that really well,
Well,
so,
that's, yeah, I
Okay.
don't have stamps, so,
okay.
okay. I'll check with Dan. If he has anything, we'll send it to them and Shelley and Mike, let y'all.
And if I get it, I can sit down with you and we can go over it.
Sure.
And my concern is that if we state the capacity of the plant too high, then we jack up the capital cost where it's going to be harder to finance and harder for the community to accept.
So
And
what,
so my thinking is, basically it's 40% bigger than the current flow rate is. At least 40% bigger. And that's a major increment of the cost. And I don't really understand this thing that the MUDs own a capacity of 217. And oh, by the way, we own a plant that's only got 3 or 4 years more life in it. So, now's the time to renegotiate our ownership, I think. We're not hooked up with that. We need to size the plant properly.
Well, that's another discussion for another day.
Sure, that's fine. That's my way of thinking. And I guess I'm looking for, support. And what I'm seeing is when we go to the meetings is MUD 386 and MUD 39 are saying, hey, we want a bigger plant. We need bigger because we're going to have lots more growth here. And I'm thinking, well, let's quantify that. Let's not just throw out a number.
One thing to keep in mind, though, we're not seeking any funds for this for at least another couple of years, based on what y'all say. So these numbers are going to be refined before there's discussions on bonds or path forward or anything else. This is basically to get those 8 alternatives down to 2, maybe 3.
And
So-
I'm picturing the real upcoming thing that needs to be decided is how big to make the replacement for wastewater treating plant 1.
Barry?
Treating plant 2 is 20 years out, and that can be adjusted. But really, the need is for wastewater plant 1.
We're having that discussion tomorrow too. Right now, everything's the full 50 years, but that does not, it covers the immediate needs, but it also covers 25, 30, 40 years out. So we're going to do that still, but we're going to come back and show just the immediate needs. This is the cost to replace wastewater plant 1 with a brand new facility, and this is a cost over 40, 50 years. Just one thing to keep in mind is every 10 years, you have to rebuild plant 1, and that's an endless loop. Every 10 years, you issue a bond, 30, 40, 50 million, and rehab plant 1, so.
so you can design a plant in stages to where they can make it, like, build it now for 6 MGD or whatever it is, and then go to 12. And you just build the facility to where it's expandable.
Sure.
The other MUDs, the 39 is behind Costco, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're on a separate sewer plant. So why would
They go through us. They go through 386, a part of it.
Oh, that's
He's
39.
after 39, which is-
Oh,
Yeah,
39.
39, but Costco, I thought they had a separate standalone plant.
They do.
So why would they care about expansion of wastewater plant 1 or 2?
I can't answer that. I think those are going
Well,
to.
So can I bring up a question
Go ahead.
about 39? The Howard Hughes is developing, 39 is annexing property off of 2978
Right.
and Woodlands Parkway. So
Across the road.
how are they gonna be a comment? Like, are they thinking about that when they're in these meetings?
No, because that's gonna be at the sole cost of the development company. I mean, they can get reimbursed if they create sufficient value, but that's gonna be the responsibility of.
But the expansion, the plant, they're not having a standalone plant, right?
We have an existing capacity of wastewater plant 2 we can sell, which both of those locations would flow to.
Okay, so they've accounted for.
So,
Okay,
They're buying into it.
so the plan
Okay.
there is they're gonna put their own water
No,
sewer
no,
drainage in,
no.
Internal.
internal with them. And then they're going to contract with
The River Authority.
River Authority.
For capacity.
full capacity.
Correct, correct. And if any additional infrastructure is necessary that, for the River Authority, that's full freight for 39 / the developer.
When you say 39,
Not 39,
well, 39 is over by the Costco.
right.
I thought this was 2978.
they're annexing property at 2978 and Woodlands Parkway.
She's talking about the stuff where the rumor is Lowe's. I've always heard Lowe's is gonna go there.
Yeah, but that's,
It's come off, that's come
Yeah.
off and on.
Off and on, yeah, but that's not, there's another piece of property in 39, 170 acres.
yeah, so all the muds are non-contiguous.
But I understand, they can annex something in Austin if they want to.
What was your question again? I'm sorry. I
So,
didn't-
so we mentioned 136 and 39, and to me, 39 had its own sewer plant. You know, so that
I
they shouldn't be
can't-
worried about
I
capacity.
can't
I know that.
support his
I know that.
argument.
Yeah.
He thinks in terms of the future. He wants enough capacity.
And
So they wouldn't-
he is Stanley. Ted Stanley.
No.
No, he's, no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking the trustee board, you're thinking of the thing. Yeah.
So we can probably go on for quite a
But
while.
I'm okay, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And is that what you were asking? That's what I was talking about? But I was just adding to what you said about 2978 Woods Parkway. Right, they're gonna have
Yeah, I
development.
was just asking like how they were getting service because technically they would go to plant 2. Yeah,
And they'll have to buy capacity from.
okay. So that's like, I was just wanting to know if it was part of the planning for the 14, because George was saying that we don't see the flows, but if we've got more flows that aren't actually not existing, like how that's
His
planned.
concern really is that high density living or buildings, high density dwellings will be built across the woodlands like in Houston. And those will generate a lot more wastewater. And we somehow have to plan for that capacity without it being in any other construction.
I can tell you there's 4 apartment complexes in a plant.
And I think
And
those are
one
in
house.
those are in the development company's communication to the SJRA,
Right,
right?
I've got
I
to.
have to see where they are to confirm, but usually, Dan and they are pretty good at knowing what is.
Yes, you could just print us out a map of what undeveloped
Yeah,
land.
I mean, it's a 6 of Final County, I can provide the.
Yeah.
That's why I got it on
Okay,
Final County.
I don't have any more questions on that.
Okay, do we have any more discussion? Item 10? Okay, I need a motion to accept the report.
Make a motion.
Do we have a second? All right, all those in favor of accepting the report from the SJRA?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
Guess I should have said aye.
All right, item 12, general manager's report.
I guess I was just wanted to talk about the AMR progress, and it's at 99% and that's just going well.
Well, it's behind schedule,
Okay,
but a lot of reasons with COVID and supply chain issues, but Mike,
It's on budget.
there we go.
so now that they're smart meters, and it's generating data, is there gonna be, I guess, for the SJRA, there'll be an update to the model. Wait,
Potentially, and that goes to the whole digital twin conversation. That's spicy here for that way. If there's any information, bugs, tweaks needs to be done, but we talked to well before this was started.
okay. That was just what I wanted to talk about, the EMI.
So
I like them.
I think you've had the 80 residents who don't have the meters. Is that in MUD 46 or is that Woodlands wide?
Woodlands wide.
Okay, and I think it was 80 several months ago. What's the deal?
It's about 60 now. A lot of these meters are encumbered by roots and other obstructions that you can't, our contractor can't change the meter until we do some preparation on the meter box.
Okay.
Are you still waiting for a few to come in?
There's seven registers for some of the larger meters in Metro that we're still waiting on. We've got all the residential meters on hand, but there's 7 registers for the 3 and 4 inch meters in Metro.
That was all I had.
Yeah, I need a motion to accept the general manager.
Technically, these are just received, not act on. So just in the matter of trying to be streamlined, you don't need a motion to approve them. Just
Okay, well, I
receive.
needed a motion to pass the minutes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
receive and act on needs a motion. Just receive is just get information and then go on to
Okay.
the next agenda.
all right, item number 13. Woodlands Water Trustees Report.
I just had a question on page 68. It's about, so you and Ed are setting the meeting with the financial advisors and how to put that on the water bills. And you're talking about having a separate line item. The line item on Mud Retail's water bills to cover the debt services SJRA bonds sold to fund this infrastructure expense. This is what there's like, what is all that?
We know we have, the 10-year plan is multiple $1 million in critical infrastructure renewal.
Yeah.
We've talked preliminarily about selling that probably in bond segments of 40 million because you can't sell more than you can build over a 3-year period. And the Audit Finance Committee has embraced the concept that a fair, reasonable way to cover this debt, debt service and debt is a separate line item on the water bill. Rather just where it's very transparent, this money is collected to retire the debt utilized for critical infrastructure renewal. And we're curious as to what maybe that will, what it will look like. Is it $5? Is it $10 for the average customer per month?
Okay.
And that's what that is about, trying to get that discussion move further along and get some preliminary numbers that we can share.
You know, the only problem I have with that is I think it actually is less transparent because it hides the true cost of water. It's more difficult for the customer to figure out, how many, how much the water's costing. I mean, you think about the SWC, is that what's the fee? I mean, that exceeds the water cost. And that kind of hides the fact that, what's the true cost of water? And you can, if you can figure the number of gallons, you divide that by the water cost, you kind of know. But if you break everything out, it kind of hides the cost from the customer. And I think it's, all that debt is just their business. I mean, I don't know, does United print out at the bottom of every ticket, this is our capitalization for aircraft, separate from your fee? They
Well,
don't
the
do that.
electric company does.
Well,
The electric
that's
company-
because it's a regulated utility.
Yeah.
Because they get rate of return based on events, but we're not, and I think it really hides. I'd rather just have them put it in their balance sheet and show it as a straight item,
It's part of their wholesale rate.
wholesale rate, and I think it makes it easy for a customer to just take a look at it. I don't like this groundwater fee. I understand the legal implications of why it's there, but I think it hides the true cost of fresh water.
And your opinion, I think you'll have plenty of time to discuss that. and put that forward.
I realize the trustee, we've kind of skimmed this a little bit.
And we're in the very
Well, I
preliminary
understand. I
stage.
just thought I'd bring out my
Okay.
viewpoint.
Understood, and I'll be happy to pass that on. I'm sure we'll get the chance to.
I want to go and too, but it's been mentioned like twice since I've been here.
Okay, do we have any more discussion on the report? All right, let's move on. Let's go on to the regular agenda. Item number 14. We're going to receive an update on the spindle tree planting options.
I've got a couple of opening comments. We have consulted with Woodlands Township and their Parks and Recreation, I guess, the experts in pre-planting, screening, and their recommendation is, do we have the copy of the?
It's in the
On
agenda.
page
On page 70.
71.
If you're looking at that aerial photo, well, it covers part of it. The green area, we talked about maybe doing some planting, what I'm going to call downslope inside the detention pond. And they are recommending, because of that elevation difference, that it would take so long for a tree to grow tall enough to provide additional screening, that we already have a fairly good stand of trees and brush. Let's irrigate it, stimulate the growth, and utilize that and speed up the process with an irrigation system. And so they are looking at probably going to get a tap from Mud 46 and put that in, if that's the way you end up going. The red area up that's only partially is an area that's property owned by the Woodlands Development Company, where Mud 46 has a drainage easement and a sanitary sewer easement, I think.
Yeah.
So that portion was a part of that was mistakenly cleared by this adjacent contractor. And the Woodlands Development Company has agreed to participate and fund planting some additional growth in that area. They would like to get an agreement for the homeowners to agree to water it, to kind of make sure it takes hold. And they're drafting up an agreement or a document to share with us in that regard.
And that's really, it's not on a sheet, but it's a line that goes along the edge of the paper.
That's
No,
right.
no, no,
That
it
10
goes,
foot.
it goes to the right. It's.
It goes only this way?
it
You're
goes-
right, you want it, but it goes all the way down.
It's along a strip
Right.
around behind, and it varies. It's the widest part, it's about 10 feet
Right.
that we have to use, and then it tapers down
Yeah.
the further you go to the right of this diagram.
So who cleared that land?
I'm told that the contractor clearing this, what is this project called?
Black Oak.
Black Oaks actually went outside of the boundary
Oh,
and
really?
got into Woodlands Development Company property is what.
Now,
the
why
homeowner-
aren't they funding the
That's
reforestation?
The property owner.
Black Oak?
Well, I think the Woodlands Development Company is wanting to get this done.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, they may go to them for some reimbursement, but
okay.
that's their choice.
Did Rhonda give you any feel for how much they're willing to contribute? Are they just gonna do it?
I'm just gonna do it. They're working up a planting plan to put in their document, which will include, if I remember, Mike, and we have on a conversation, it will be wax myrtles and other trees, bushes, pines.
And matter of fact, along that red line, it really goes the length of French oaks plus the additional development behind, I forget what it's called. So you'd have trees, and then you're gonna have the stockade fencing from that development all the way around. And what we don't know is how many gaps they will have for access, but right now, we only have four gaps that allows access to that right of way area.
But that right of way is in the woodlands.
It's in the woodland. It's in the
And
woodland.
they won't have access to that, I wouldn't think.
Well, I would tend to agree with that statement, but we don't know.
Right.
They could
I
put,
think that's
they could put a hole in the wall, in the gate
sure.
and,
So what is the final ask? I heard the development company on the right side is gonna put up trees and then there's something about an irrigation system.
The
Yeah, irrigation,
development company will ask the homeowners to irrigate the trees behind their property.
Okay,
that's the red area. The green area, it would be a new irrigation system put in to stimulate growth along that existing tree line.
I thought there was an irrigation system there already, but not in use.
And
It
there's
might
been
be.
some question about that. Yeah, I think if
Well,
they're gonna get it working. Yeah.
Who is that?
Chris, yeah, the Parks Department.
and
But I'm not sure there is one there because I don't think there's a tap. I don't know
Yeah.
where they're getting
I thought
water.
it was Drip irrigation. system.
I'm certain there's one. I've gone out there and seen it. It's a good 1 inch or greater pipe.
Have you
I've seen
seen
it.
it recently
Yes.
being
And,
used?
and I talked to a homeowner and she said she's been there since the house was built. She says water has never flowed through that line.
Okay, that's my point. I don't think I think it
It's
may have
not
been
connected to a tap.
put in initially, but it hasn't been used in years and years.
I agree.
and it would be a Woodlands Township meter, like they would pay for the water or,
No, I think to be determined. We'll see.
okay.
I like that thought though.
Yeah.
They're gonna put
Do you have anything more?
I think, yeah, so it could be part of their water bill.
Okay, that's fine. Mhm.
I included in the packet the emails from Chris. I think that two of them, he basically feels that with the drought, there's been so many trees in the township that were killed or died that they do not have any manpower right now to go lead a project to reforest down the slope. And I think, Jim, what you're saying is the development company is not going to be funding that part of the project.
That's correct. It's not their property. Yeah, they're willing to do what they can on their property.
So it was a good discussion we had with Chris Nunes. And Tom was in on it also. So
How was Alan? Was Alan there?
No.
No. Has this been communicated back to Alan?
not yet.
Not yet.
So I wanted to wait until after we had the feedback in this meeting before I went back down.
So obviously, he's gonna be somewhat disappointed.
I think he'll be very pleased that the
Oh, over there,
development
right,
company.
yeah,
is-
we'll take care of that. I
yeah.
agree with that. But there's a catch. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Alan's planted a lot of trees back there. And, he has to take his 1 gallon bucket and haul it out there, probably twice a week. And that runs at least, 1,500 feet. So,
So somebody's gonna run a hose. I think there's one there.
but it's a long hose. That's next to Alan's house, there's only 4 entry points. So they need to think through that before they agree to that part of the project. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion?
Do we
Alright.
need to decide on anything or no? Okay.
All right, item 15, the attorney's report. Do you have
No
any?
journal items this afternoon. I do have the investment policy. Happy to answer the general questions if you have them.
I have no questions.
Item number 16, the annual review of the district's investment policy. As we talked about before, the district is required by the Public Funds Investment Act to conduct an annual review of the investment policy. Our firm conducts that review on our district client's behalf and makes recommendations to our boards as to whether there are any necessary changes to be made to the policy
Okay.
for the annual review. We do have a handful of minor revisions this year that are reflected in the packet, pages 74 to 76. The deletions are in red, the additions are in blue. And we do need a motion to adopt the resolution evidencing that the review has been conducted and that the amended policy is adopted.
All right, should we first ask the you're going to be the investment officer?
Yeah,
We'll continue to be.
continue. Yeah.
Okay, and you accept that role? All right. Was there any reason why it went from page 2 of 13, skipped page 3, 4, and 5? And then, or did you just include the
Only
pages?
included the pages that had changes.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
So what is the purpose of this policy? What's the general thrust of,
To make sure that the district invests its funds in compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act. So
And it's required for all public entities.
That's correct.
and the state guides that investment?
It does.
Yes, yeah, it has very the Public Funds Investment Act has very detailed guidelines. That's why you'll never see a district invested in Bitcoin. Yeah, and Bitcoin was cool, which it's not now,
No.
but,
That's what I-
very concerned, and they actually go so far as to set out what the investment goals of public entities are, and that's noted in the policy, which is preservation of capital, number 1, liquidity, number 2, and last is rate of return. And that's because it's public funds and the state has taken the policy, they would rather you not make enough, in return in exchange for being very cautious.
Safety.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the investments tend to be in bonds.
It's mainly in text pool, which are text class, which are intergovernmental risk pools, because I actually had some districts a couple of weeks ago that broke their CDs because they actually, whatever they paid in penalties, they were going to make up in a month or so with going with text pool because the CDs were so low, because they were put in, 6, 8+ months ago and rates had gone.
Point
haywire.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, do we need a motion to accept this? Okay, I need a motion to accept item 16, the appointment of Jim Stinson as the investment advisor or investment
Yeah, this will be-
manager.
This will be to approve the resolution on the annual review and to adopt or approve the amended policy.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept the amended policy.
I make a motion to accept that.
Okay, in a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 That's all I have.
Okay,
No need to go into closed session under 17.
okay.
No need to go.
No need to go. Keep it on there just in case.
Okay, the last item number 19 is consider an act on the proposal prepared by Director Letterman. I think everyone on the board received an email from Shelley, and it stated the proposal that Director Letterman was having. Since he is not here today, he asked that we postpone the discussion of that until a time when he can discuss it. In the meantime, are there any questions on the board? Okay,
The question I had is, what is the goal? What are we trying to do with this? Are we trying to persuade the city of Conroe to change? Or are we trying to persuade the SJRA to change? It's really, I'm going down to the absolute bottom line of why are we doing this?
Right. At this
I
point,
think if you ask 10 people, you get 10 different answers,
But
but
there's only
5 of us,
Yeah.
right? And I think if you asked each one of us, we'd get 5 different answers. So since it's Fred's proposal, I'm going to defer that to Fred.
So that's my question for Fred.
All right.
And
So the purpose,
what is the goal?
all right. Do we have any requests for discussion for next month's meeting? I've had 2. A discussion on changing the meeting date and time.
Yes.
Okay, everyone agree on that? And the second one was review the policy on our adjustments. I think it was asked about, since we have the new AMI meters, that we adjust our policy on requests for adjustments.
Along that line, we try to keep we have what we call a uniform policy manual that we try to keep as uniform as we can. Staff level, we agree, there's probably that adjustment policy needs to be revisited based on the new meters. But I think Med 47 also inquired about that, and our recommendation was give us a few more months for us internally to look
Come
at
up with
that and
the-
come up with something that we would like to present that would be uniform between all the
Okay.
districts.
All right, so we'll just table that.
Table it and then give us some time to think about it and try to get the notice out to customers to sign up for the meters. But I agree, it will be time to adjust our policy, but give us a few more months to work.
All
on
right,
it.
and you'll let me know. Okay, very good.
I like the meter, the new website.
The smart,
The smart notification.
platform.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, I make a motion that we adjourn. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, opposed?